Good evening, welcome to the AFRAC meeting, the Illinois Field Renovation and Design Committee. Tonight is July 27th, and our meeting tonight called to order at 7:18, and I'll review our agenda. We will first open with public input. We will have an OPM, or an Owner's Project Management update, design firm update. Stakeholder presentation tonight is youth football and cheer. We will then approve our minutes. Another opportunity for public input. And then if the conversation warrants, we'll have some conversation about the timeline, or where we're at and where we're looking ahead. And then we'll schedule our next meetings, then we'll adjourn. Sound good? All right, let's get underway. Is there anybody who would like to stand up, public input? Okay, seeing nobody. The subcommittee, of which Mike is the chairman, and Carl, myself, and Sheila are on for the selection of the OPM and the design firm, met last evening, and I don't want to steal your thunder.
We met with the three firms that had responded to the RFQ for the owner's project manager. And we made a recommendation to the PMBC. They'll act on that next week. They are the ones that will actually pick, because there's a negotiation that has to take place, and they're the ones who will determine if the first firm we picked, if they can meet the price, they think it's going to be worthwhile to the town to hire that particular firm, then they'll do that. If they don't, they'll go to the next pick. So they got to work that out. Hopefully that'll happen next week. Once we have the OPM in place, we will then continue to move forward with the designer selection. We want the OPM to be a part of that. We want them to participate in that process, so we need to get them on board before we continue with that. So we'll take the design selection committee, the OPM and design selection committee, screening committee. We'll take a little hiatus next week to let the PMBC do their work, and then we'll probably try to get back together the week of the 8th and sit down with them. Yeah, and then we have 5 designer submissions. We're going to try to shortlist that to 3, and then we'll bring 3 in to interview with the OPM. And the same thing, make a recommendation to the PMBC, but they're the ones who will execute the actual selection and hire.
Good deal. Guys have any questions or? No? Good? Anything to add, Carl?
That's it in a nutshell.
All right. Good summary. All right.
Keyword summary.
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty light agenda tonight, so the next, well, it depends how long our stakeholders take doing their presentation. Our stakeholder tonight is youth football and cheer.
Are we really to us already?
Do you need time?
Okay. No, I'm
I
good.
can stall.
I'm just wondering. Like, well, this is like the express meeting, which is kind of good on any other day if we weren't the stakeholders. That's fine.
So tonight we have Tom Perrell, who's president of youth football, and Jackie Sagal.
Something or other.
With cheer. And as soon as you guys are ready, welcome up to the podium, and
Can I plug this in?
believe the cables there are ready for you.
Yeah, I think we should be good.
Usually it was right there for that.
By we, meant to say.
How do we do this? That's interesting, huh?
Have,
Are we Bluetooth?
No. Oh, that doesn't have a...
Is my equipment
Is
too
ours too
new?
new?
I think it's too new, yeah.
I think it's too new.
I think we have a
Have you seen my cars? Because that's sort of miraculous.
An
This is
AV
too new.
specialist here.
So somewhat of a technical snafu.
It's a
That's
Toshiba.
all I consider. Well, not technical, but.
It's BYO dongle.
Because I don't think I have that one. I only have the apples.
HDMI
We work
cable on the
all
floor.
month on this.
Yeah, what's that? Use
Or
that-
possibly,
that cable behind you on the
what
floor?
is this? Hang on.
Yeah,
please hold.
no, not that one, that's
On the
audio.
floor.
This
behind.
one doesn't go in, doesn't have any port for this.
She pulling the
That's
same
too
cable?
old.
I think so.
All right, so Tom, just do
Do
this.
you want me to sing the Rocky theme?
So, yeah, if you could just do dun, 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 dun. That
Can
would
we
be
put a
good.
camera over here?
Yeah.
God, no,
I know the theme.
Two of us sing it.
that's okay. You can,
I mean, we can
just use your, close your eyes, use your imagination.
story time with Jackie.
I think
So,
we need some public input.
Do you want? So just use that. Just use
Okay.
it, go on.
All right, I'll start off. My name is Tom Perrell. I'm the president of Littleton Youth Football and Cheer, and I've been president, this will be my second year. And I'll let Jackie introduce herself, but she runs the cheerleading program for our town. So a little background on Littleton Youth Football and Cheer. We were founded in 2011 by Ken Beck. It evolved out of Westford Pop Warner. So what happened is Westford was youth football. They ended up going to Pop Warner. They basically jettisoned Littleton from their program, which forced Littleton to either join up with another town or start their own program, which we did. We started our own program in 2011 for both football and cheer. We also added flag football, and that's going to be relevant as we get further into this presentation. 2016 registration. So this year we had a dip in registration for football. Historically, we've been in the 70 player range. We've historically had 4 teams, an 8th, a 7th, a 6th, and then a combined 4th and 5th. This year we have 2 teams. We have a combined 5th grade, 5th and 6th, and then we have a 8th grade only for tackle. I can get up on a soapbox and talk about, what's driving that, but unfortunately the numbers were low this year despite great efforts from parents to recruit. Our flag program is strong, and I think we are going to promote the flag program dramatically next year. And I think what we're seeing across the board is that tackle football is becoming more popular later on, and flag football is more popular at the younger ages. So we have 97 kids we're projecting to play flag, and I would expect that number to increase next year by quite a bit. Right, and so flag, football, the flag football feeds the tackle football feeds the high school football program, and the good news is, as we've seen over the last few years, Littleton's high school football program has been incredibly strong and has basically put Littleton on the map from a sports perspective, in addition to the field hockey, which has always been strong in this town. Thank you to Sheila Kish on that. For cheerleading, we have 44 cheerleaders, 3 teams. Last year, was it last year, Jackie, we had a team that went to nationals, or the year before?
We've had 3 teams go to nationals in the last 3 years.
So we've had 3 teams from Littleton go to nationals. For a town of our size, that's pretty darn good. We have a very strong cheerleading program. So let's talk field usage for tackle football. Historically, we've been practicing at the Littleton Middle School field. This year, we're up in the air. I've been told that Park and Rec and the Highway Department are shutting down the middle school field. We're still trying to have some conversations around that, but, so historically, we've been practicing at the Littleton Middle School field. You know, football is a tough, it's a sport that is tough on grass. You know, we run agility drills, we run a bunch of things, and if you've ever played the game, you know, you've got two people battling in the trenches, and that can be tough on grass. And so what we try to do is we try to move our drills around the field so that we're not chewing up one area of the field. We typically, at the Littleton Middle School field, we typically have two teams practicing at the same time. The field can accommodate three. It gets a little cramped with three teams, but we can do it. But typically, it's two teams at a time. The ages this year for youth football will range from 11 years old to 14 years old, and that's tackle. We'll practice, typically we'll practice Tuesday and Thursday night, 2 hours each night, and then a Saturday walkthrough, games on Sunday. In the month of August, we practice 4 nights a week. So both teams will practice 4 nights a week until school starts, basically. Okay. Last year, we had an 8th grade team that chose to practice at Whitcomb. So Whitcomb is the field across the street from Alumni. It's used by baseball. It's actually the best baseball field we have in town. It's better than the high school field up at the high school. It's a very good baseball field. The problem with Whitcomb is any kind of rain, the field is drenched because it's built on a wetland. There's a pond right behind it, which is used to water Alumni Field and Whitcomb Field. So, you know, we're not into the pros and cons yet in this presentation, but that's been one of the negatives of Whitcomb. Field use tackle. So Alumni Field is used for the walkthroughs on Saturday. I'm a big proponent of using Alumni on Saturday. The walkthroughs are just that. We walk through the plays, what our game plan is, our special teams, and it's very easy on the fields. We don't do any damage to the fields. It's a casual practice. It's a day before a game. We don't want the kids to get hurt. But then we have four home games a year. Typically, we might have a fifth, depending upon how Central Mass schedules their games. Last year, youth football went to everyone makes the playoff system. So you have kind of for lack of a better term, you have a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket. The winner's bracket, the best teams in the league play in the winner's bracket. The worst teams or the teams.
Best of the rest.
The best of the rest, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fun.
They play in the other bracket, and so everyone makes the playoffs. So that extends the season. The season typically goes from August 1st, when we start practicing, and it goes through October. So when the regular season this year will be over by October 16th, but then we'll continue into the playoffs. And Littleton has typically done very well in the playoffs, regardless of which bracket we're in. We've done pretty well. We have had some night games at Alumni. So last year, my team, which was a 7th grade team, we played Marlboro under the lights in a playoff game. And so we have had that opportunity to play under the lights. All right, let's talk flag football. Flag football, and again, I see this program growing. And, I think the numbers are, we have 500 kids playing soccer. And we have, and that's in the fall, and we have about 500 kids playing soccer in the spring. I see flag football growing as an organized sport in Littleton, particularly at the younger age levels. So we, the flags, the flag teams, and we have about 90, like I said, we have almost 100 kids in flag. So we have, I believe we have 10 teams, and we play our games up at the high school, but we play on the lacrosse field. Okay, so the lacrosse, we try not to encroach on soccer. The soccer, soccer is played in the fall. The football team practices on a space between the high school softball field and the soccer field. And if anyone's ever been up there, that space is in pretty rough shape. Football does by mid-season that there's not much grass on that practice field for the high school. So flag does play on the lacrosse field, but flag football doesn't tear up. It does nothing to the fields. It does no harm. The only negative is it doesn't let that field rest. So if you're trying to seed it, if you're trying to put sod down, it just won't have time because the flag folks will be up there. The way flag runs is you have an hour for practice on Saturday, and then you have an hour for the game. It's a 2-hour event for the kids. And there are no practices in the week. They just show up on Saturday and they do their practice, and then they do their games. The ages run from 6 years old. There might be some 5-year-olds in flag, but typically 6 years old up to 11. I wouldn't be surprised if we extended that age up beyond 11, just because flag is becoming more popular. It is becoming more popular in other towns as well. And again, there are approximately 5 games going on a Saturday per season. Okay, let's talk facility use, tackle football. So the pros at Alumni Field. What are the pros of using Alumni Field as a facility? Oh, battery's running low.
Thanks, Matt.
So we have seating. Obviously, no other field available to us in Littleton has bleachers. There's a snack bar, and that's important because the snack bar is part of Littleton Youth Football fundraising endeavors. The program makes money on the snack bar. We have lights, so we can play night games. If we need to practice at night, whether it's a walkthrough or maybe we move over to Alumni Field to run some plays, we can fire up the lights and have a practice. It has an audio video system where we have announcements, we can play music. It definitely enhances the experience of the afternoon. And then finally, it has a scoreboard. So those are the pros. At the middle school, we have, the pros of the middle school program is that we do have some lights. So the light and water department put in lights a few years back. They're not great. They're limited in terms of how much light is given off, but it allows us to get practices in because come October, it gets dark by, 5:30, 6 o'clock. So, bless you. So the lights go on right away. As we get towards the end of the season, we basically practice the entire time under limited lights, but it does allow us to get that done. It's available. No one else uses that field. It's the most available field that we have that time of year. And what's interesting is I was checking out Whitcomb the other morning when I found out that, the middle school field was being closed down. I was checking out the Whitcomb field, and Sean from the Highway Department happened to be there, and so we were talking, and I said, gee, Sean, I think I'd like to set up over there along the tree line. He said, nope, soccer. That's soccer's field. I said, well, how about soccer? I said, well, what, soccer? I said, okay, how about at Cooper soccer? And I said, okay, all right, it's evident, I see it, 500 kids, you gotta have a lot of field usage for 500 kids. He pointed out an area about the size of this room and said, you guys can practice there. And I said, yeah, we could probably run a couple of drills there, but, we're throwing the ball 60% of the time in the 8th grade. We're not running pass plays in an area this size. I think we do have a spot at Whitcomb if we need it, but what's interesting is there is field space up at Shaker Lane that we could use or soccer could use. So anyway, there's more to be done with that because, again, we lose the lights at the middle school if we move to Whitcomb. The alternative is if we move to Whitcomb, we go half our practices on Whitcomb, and then we move into Alumni Field and run our plays. Not ideal, but at least we'd have lights and we could see the football when we're throwing it. Right. Dimensions. So another pro of the middle school field is it's shaped like a football field. Whitcomb's a great field, but it's a baseball field. We're trying to carve a football field out of a baseball field. And it accommodates two or more teams to practice. And then the last piece is parking. So, we have a lot of parents that come down. It's, particularly in August, where parents, they drop their kids off, they sit and they watch practice. It becomes a social event, and there's plenty of parking for parents to, at the middle school. Okay, let's talk some cons. So at Alumni Field, overall poor field conditions. I know Mike Lynn has been very vocal about the crown, and that field is over 50 years old. I played on a crown field in college, and it was brutal. And then when you play on a flat surface, it completely screws up the passing game. But the overall field conditions, when we say it's a poor field, Alumni Field has a lot of divots in it, a lot of uneven surfaces. And 2 years ago, we were playing Worcester. Worcester is a city of 100,000 people. We were playing them to a 0-0 tie going into overtime. Late in regulation, we were trying to throw the ball, and my son was going out for a pass, and he stepped in one of those little divots and hyperextended his knee. He had to come out of the game, and unfortunately, we just didn't have enough kids that to take those big running backs from Worcester down, and we lost. But I'm not upset that we lost. I'm upset that we lost a player because he stepped in a hole and hyperextended his knee on a routine pass play. So, the field is not in great shape. It's got a short sideline, so if you've ever, when you look at other fields, and we play in other towns. I'd prefer to play in other towns, actually, just because the other towns offer better fields. But we have a very small sideline, and when the play comes over, it gets a little dangerous when the kids are getting tackled out of bounds at the sideline. I know, when we're playing, the cheerleaders are right there. They are, the cheerleaders and the players are next to each other, and it does create a dangerous situation. And then, we talked about the uneven surfaces. At the middle school field, if you haven't seen the middle school field, please go see it. I had a woman tell me at the town hall one afternoon, this was a few months ago, and she said, it's kids should play on dirt. It's good for them. And I said, I don't have an issue with dirt. I have an issue with the rocks that are in the dirt when my kid falls falls down and his knee gets driven into a rock about the size of your fist, and he has to come out for 5 minutes because his knee is in so much pain he can't walk. I said, that's where I have an issue. I'll play in dirt all day long, but that's not the surface at the middle school. The surface at the middle school, it's rocks, it's dirt, it's whatever else is in that soil that doesn't make a safe surface. There's almost no grass left. When I started coaching, I was coaching a 4th, 5th grade team. This goes back to 2012. That field was actually in pretty good shape. I think lacrosse was maybe a year old. It had been around for a year. They were playing down at that field. There was plenty of grass. Now there's almost none. That field has taken an absolute beating. There's no irrigation. The field never gets watered. I don't even know why the town puts fertilizer down. It makes no sense. You may as well put fertilizer down on the parking lot. If they want to fertilize something, maybe they'll grow grass on the parking lot. And then we talked about the rocks in the soil. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn or do you want me to?
You can keep
Oh,
going.
all right, I'll keep going.
I'll call commentary later.
I'll put on my chair hat and talk about the cheer. So field usage for cheer. Cheer is on Alumni Field on Sundays. And they're in front of the bleachers. The area where cheer is, it's not an ideal situation. If you've ever been down there, the surface is very uneven. And it's rocky. If there's any kind of rain, there's a reason there's a crown on Alumni Field. It's to drain the water to the side. If there's any kind of rain, that entire area where the cheerleaders are is drenched. So it floods easily, it's slippery, it's muddy. The cheerleaders are you have to block off a section. You can't walk from one end of the stands to the other without walking into the cheerleaders, because there's so limited space from the sideline to where the stands are that you literally have to enter the stands from one side, go up, walk over, and go down, or simply walk behind the stands and go around. So there's no space there. And we talked about the cording off the area. but that also reduces the seating. Okay, facility for cheer. So we just talked about the surface. Now we're talking facility. There's no warm-up area. So football's going on, you've got multiple teams. So if there are two teams playing, and there's one game's going on, the other teams are warming up, there's nowhere for cheerleaders to warm up. The stands aren't ADA compliant, so if you've got a parent in a wheelchair, if you've got a parent or anyone with a disability of any kind, it makes it tough. You've got to watch at ground level. If you've ever sat in those bleachers, it's scary. And if you have a little kid walking around, if you're a parent and you've got an older kid playing football or doing cheerleading, and you've got a baby or a toddler who's running around, you've got to keep a constant eye on that kid, or else they're going through the bleachers. There's no comfortable place to use a restroom. I mean, you are using a porta potty. Enough said there. And then cheer runs a snack shack on home games, but there are no cooking facilities, so we have to bring in a grill. There is really no sink area, so you have to clean out your pots and pans with a hose. And so the snack shack while it's a pro, right? We have one. That's the good news. We have one. The negative is we have one. We have
that one.
We have that one.
Missed opportunity.
It just doesn't meet the needs. If you go around, I love going to Neshoba. I love playing at Neshoba. If you want to go see a beautiful field, go to Leominster. Leominster has one of the nicest facilities. Doyle Field, it has a beautiful snack bar, great field. It's in a bowl, it's kind of sunk down in the ground. It's perfect. Now, obviously, they're a city, and I get it, but you go to Clinton. Clinton's got an absolute gorgeous facility. Air now has a gorgeous facility when they redid their high school. So now let's talk about how we can help, all right? And let's talk about the current situation with what it costs Littleton Youth Football and Cheer to maintain what we have. To maintain the rocks and the dirt, we pay $7,000 a year, okay? And that's for paint. I don't know where the paint goes, because last year we never had the middle school field painted. We were charged for paint, but I don't know, maybe it was green or brown and blended in with the rest of the field. We got charged for seed and fertilizer. Again, those are great when you have water, but if you're not watering it, then you really shouldn't seed and fertilize. And water. That includes the water. I'm not sure when they were watering it, but there didn't appear, the only water I ever saw in the field was when it rained. But that's, $7,000 a year in field maintenance, and I'm not being critical of the highway department, because they have what they have, and they're limited in resources. So obviously we have $7,000 that we can play with in terms of maintenance cost. And over the last couple of years, we've done a good job. The program has done a good job of fundraising. We have money, and we don't have a ton of money. We don't have soccer money, but then again, we don't have 500 kids playing football. But we have money. And our goal is to raise $10,000 a year for Littleton Youth Football. That's our goal. It doesn't cost us, well, yeah, I guess it does cost us $7,000 or $10,000 a year to run the program. It costs us a little bit more than that, but we cover that in our fees. So,
And we've met that goal the last couple of years, 10,000.
yeah, last year, we actually blew through that goal. We crushed it last year. We had a great fundraising event, and we raised a lot of money. We're doing okay. Financially, we're doing okay, and that's been a big goal that we've set to get that program financially strong so that we can afford to do things like, kick in money for maintenance and other things. So our goal is to, on top of what we pay annually, which is that $7,000 number, is we want to contribute at least another $5,000 towards maintenance. If we can hit that number, then, that's $12,000 a year in maintaining fields. And you throw on top of that what, lacrosse pays and what all the other programs pay, and we've got some money for maintenance. Now, if we have to raise more money, we will. But that's what we're looking at. So with that, I'll open the floor to questions.
Anybody have any questions? Was that done? Go ahead,
Yes.
Cheerleader, you didn't say how many teams cheerleading the cheerleaders have?
Oh, I'm sorry, 3 teams.
3 teams.
Yeah, 44 kids and 3 teams.
And where do they generally practice?
We practice in August outside middle school.
As well, so you both share that space outside the
We're
building?
not
Jackie, can you
on
step
the-
up and just use the microphone
Sorry.
because nobody else can hear you besides us?
Sorry, that was strategic, actually. We are in August outside the middle school, so we are in front of the school. We're not on the field that the football players are on. In
So you're
fact,
not really on a field, you're on
No,
a
we're not.
space.
We're in the parking lot behind the school, the little service area, as well as in front of the school. And then come fall, we move inside because we're one of those sports that we split our time between competing on the mats as well as spending time on Friday nights at the football games for high school and on Sundays for the youth program.
Okay. Another question. So you say you have night games, you only mentioned one night game for youth football, but was that only for your team? Do the other teams have night games as well?
Yeah, so the 6th grade team had a night game.
So you only really had 2 night games for the whole season? for
Right.
all those
I think
kids?
it's for the whole history of Littleton Youth Football, we've had 2 night games.
No, we've had
At
others.
home?
So I remember Mike Crory, when he was coaching the 5th.
You're right,
The playoffs.
Playoffs.
It was playoffs.
He had a,
It's been like special.
yeah, he had a
Right.
night game.
Is that, I'm sorry,
During
is
the
that
week.
because there is an opportunity to play night games? Would you like to provide each of the age groups the opportunity to do that?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
ideally, so we play in Clinton. Now, the Clinton 8th grade team this year, their coach works on Sundays, so he can't, they play all of their games on Saturdays, and they play them at Clinton under the lights, because he has a conflict, and so the program accommodates Clinton. Now, I don't want to say all the games, but most of their games are played under the lights. Our kids love that.
Well, when you talk about a feeder program and getting kids excited, that's a huge part of it. If you
Yeah.
can give them that opportunity, even if it's one night game a year, that's pretty big to be able to give them that.
Oh, I agree, and I think we could play some Saturday night games,
Yeah.
because I know, parents don't typically want to play Sunday night games,
Right.
particularly if the Patriots are on. And they're usually on at 4 or 8 o'clock. But Saturday night games would be great. And,
I believe the reasoning behind the playoff games being played at night was because they are during the week. And to your
Yeah.
point, in October, November, it's dark. So there's only certain towns that can, well, just about everybody has lights now in the league, but, so I think part of the reasoning was because it's a weeknight game.
Yep, absolutely.
So the playoff games, are they similar to the high school where a commission can say, no, we're not going to play on that field, it's just not suitable for a playoff, that you would play, you would lose home field advantage like some of the high school teams do because of the field?
They could. We have, alumni hasn't gotten there yet.
It did last year, two years ago. The 8th grade team had to play it on Air Shirley's field because alumni was not playable. Playoff
That's
game.
right.
And we also have missed opportunities to hold some of the cups through the youth program and some of the jamborees. We got lucky right before they changed the rules about infield surface. We were able to hold one here, and it was a tremendous fundraiser for us and enabled us to buy, at least from a cheer standpoint, a whole new set of mats, which has really benefited both the high school and the youth cheer programs. But now they have changed the rules, and the condition of our field has now prohibited us from being able to put our hat in the ring to potentially host one of those cup programs, or bowl programs, I'm saying cup, bowl programs. Sorry, Tom.
So one of the points that I forgot to mention is that whenever it rains, and if it spits, we can get away with it. But if it rains, Park and Rec shuts down the fields because they in the rain, they get absolutely destroyed. And so we haven't had the opportunity. Now, because we only have 2 teams, that leaves other days available. So if it rains on Tuesday, we can move practice to Wednesday or whatever. But if we get in a situation where we're back to 4 teams, which I believe we will get to, I think, and that's where we were. Historically, we're at 4 teams, and I think that we just hit kind of this odd lull with the lower
I think class size has
ages.
something to do with it too, because
Yeah.
like the 7th and 8th grade teams in general in the youth program haven't been able to field teams from lacrosse to softball to football.
That's
in the
right.
youth program.
That's
So
right.
it's not just a football thing, I think it's just the size of the class is contributing to that problem, right?
That's right. So, that's been an issue, trying to get field time when it's raining.
Jackie, when you have your cheerleaders in the middle of the field for your halftime show, is there problems there too with?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if there's any kind of weather, we need to dumb down the routines that the kids work really hard to practice. And some of the kids never make it to the competition, so it's really the only opportunity for them to really, put out there in front of their folks and the community what they've been working so hard to do on the sidelines. So, yeah, and that goes to the high school as well. We never really get to do a full-fledged, full-blown, what they've been working on with their tumbling and such, because it's just too dangerous. We don't take the chance. So it's usually a dumbed-down, excuse the phrase dumbed down for the girls who are listening, version of what they're working on,
Absolutely.
so it's just a safer option we put out there. And while I've got the mic, the walkway issue is a tremendous issue, that we're sharing space with the only footpath for the facility. So we are smack in the middle of it, so we are honestly a pain in the bum for anybody who's trying to walk from one place to the other. You can't cross without, having to go up, at least on Friday nights, we literally cordon it off, and you do need to use the first row of the bleachers in the middle section to traverse the field, which is sort of silly. But it's the only way to keep the cheerleaders safe and to keep people safe and not to interrupt the whole.
And if you had a bigger sideline area, would you do more during the game where you guys are doing stuff on the sideline? Are you limited because?
Oh, God, gosh,
So
yeah,
you would-
absolutely.
There would be
Because we're-
more opportunity for the girls to do more
Certainly.
work, more stuff.
Yep, just be normal sideline cheerleaders, which there's a lot more to do, and they're competitive cheerleaders, so they're capable of doing a lot of stuff, and they want to do it, and it's fun, and it's kind of part of the whole experience of being out there on a Friday night under the lights with your football team in town. So, and when we go to other fields, where most towns, the visiting cheerleaders not allowed to do anything, but there are pads set aside that are kind of nice, where it's safe, it's level, it's secure, it's solid for them to go out there and to do what they can do. So we enjoy watching some of the opposing programs do what they can do with a lot of envy. We've got green-eyed monsters all stand there watching them. So, yeah, there is a lot of opportunity that is missed because of where we're playing. You know, in the same breath, it's great because we're so close, so the kids, at least on Friday nights, they're right in front of the crowds, and so there's a lot of crowd engagement. But I think that can be accomplished in other ways as well, where they get to do, you know, even more and still engage the crowd, so it's good. And the Snack Shack, man, that is a missed opportunity for generating revenue for us. It really is. I mean, we do fine, I mean, relatively speaking, but when you see the opportunities that really could be there if we put something as simple as basic plumbing and some decent electric in there, that we can run an oven and some hot water. I think it would make a big difference for our fundraising efforts, and that would really offset some of the costs of maintenance if we structure what we do with the income appropriately.
And especially, like you said, if you get a chance at those, you know, every other year, every third year, if you get one of those big events, those league-wide events, I mean, that can, you know, cover your nut for, you know, 2 or 3 years to do extra stuff. But now
Yeah.
that's just, you know, you just don't have that.
Actually, the youth program is in the queue, did you know this, for 2017, to run Jamboree again and Fun Comp for cheer?
I did not know that.
I just saw it. I was like, oh, not 2019, I said 17,
Oh.
2019. Oh, sorry, I scared myself there for a second. I was like, wait, how old are our kids? Oh, we'll be going. Or maybe
But you
not.
need, but in the current condition, you probably.
No, we
go
would
by
be
the board.
denied the opportunity to do that. For football, for cheer, we probably could figure something out because it's mostly indoor. But there's an opportunity for both programs to run, you know, sort of
Yeah.
their key fundraisers.
You know, that Jamboree, and just, you know, if you're not aware, familiar with it, the Jamboree is the week before the regular season starts. And all of the teams from North Central Mass, they come and they play, parents show up, you pay at the gate. I think when we ran the Jamboree in 2012, we raised $16,000. That's what we netted after expenses. That was a tremendous success. I mean,
Big time.
Ken and Maria and all the volunteers did an amazing job at that Jamboree. And I don't know where the money is now, but that's a whole separate issue.
That's nice equipment.
I think I'm totally out of a couple of
Tom, how about if you talked about the flag football program, if that continued to grow, would you consider practicing during the week and expanding the program so that, you know, the kids could get more out of it? And if you had the field space available, would you do that?
I would, yeah. I think the flag, you know, you got a couple of things, right? So I think flag in the fall. I think you can run a 7-on-7. 7-on-7 is really big now at the high schools. It's getting big at the youth level. And you're going to see in a few more years, you're going to see Central Mass will have a summer league 7-on-7 played around Central Mass. And, you know, you're going to, you know, it's funny, the game is getting hit with this whole issue about the concussions, right? It's funny, I never had a concussion in, 14 years of organized football, but somehow, some parent's gonna, you know, their kid, Johnny's gonna, you know, lose their marbles when they
You
play.
were born this way?
What's that? I was born this way.
I was gonna say, no, nobody. He didn't have any conclusions.
But the interesting thing is, I think you're gonna see the game evolve. I think you're gonna see,
You've already seen, like, the NFL has reacted, and their programming and the way they introduce youth football has changed.
yeah,
And what may very well happen is that you may see flag football continue to ascend to where it is, but you may also see different methodologies for introducing contact football. A shorter season, starting later in the summer, you know, limiting, so that it limits the perceived or real, you know, risk of injury, whether it's concussions or anything else. And then, like you say, it's still very popular at the high school level. And what's great about it is that you don't have to have played a lick of football in youth. The skill level relative to other sports is low, You can go to high school football, and in a month, you've closed whatever gap there is with the kids that have been playing their whole lives.
That's right.
And certain kids who weren't very good athletes need that opportunity because they never had any skill in anything else.
That's right.
And that worked for me. So, I think that
Defense
football is going to stay here. I mean, it's the sport in America. It really is. It's going to stay here. It may modify in how we introduce it and how we play it at the youth level, but it's not going away. It's just going to change. And you even see at the high school level, they're playing differently. They're playing faster. There's less contact. The strategy of the game is changing. It's not always smash mouth football the way it used to be.
No.
And they practice differently too. The high school, the MIAA has directed less contact, less head-on-head contact drills, but they're still playing, and we're going to continue to play. So,
Well, it's that balance, and I think you have parents that say, I want my kid playing later. I want them playing when they get to junior high or high school. The issue I see with that, because I see that at the youth level, right? I mean, you see these young kids who know how to tackle in the fourth, fifth, sixth grade. They're very good at it because they were taught it. And they were taught it at an age where collisions aren't very hard. You get a freshman in high school playing the game for the first time who doesn't know how to make a tackle, and they go in flying with their helmet, and they collide with some two. When I played, I was one of the biggest kids in the league. I was 245 pounds. Now you got Tommy Keenan is 300 and something pounds. Right? I mean, you have kids that are just way bigger today, and if you don't know what you're doing out there, I mean, you can get hurt, and concussion being the least of your issues if you don't know how to do it. So
I think the youth program here is a great program. Personally, I thought that when we broke off from Westford, I was thinking that this wasn't going to go, but it went, and it's been a great program. My kids have played in it. And like I say, I'm very confident, based on what you guys said tonight, in the programming you have in place, and other stuff I see outside of what we're doing in Littleton, because there's other towns are dealing with these same issues, and they're reacting to it. So I think this is going to be a program that needs good space, like every other program.
Yeah.
And I think we talk about the middle school field a lot. The problem with the middle school field is that football and lacrosse got thrown there because they were late to the party. Both those programs, soccer's been here forever and ever and ever. And like you
Yep.
say, it's the biggest program, so they need the most space. There's no question about it. But football and lacrosse kind of got shoehorned into this one field. And you're right, it's rectangular, it's there. And if it was a good field, if it was ever a good field, it would have been okay. But right now, we're seeing that that's not going to suffice anymore. The shoehorning these two programs in there isn't going to work. They have to get out of there, regardless of whether or not we repair it to a certain degree. They have to get out, and because, like you said, when you have two teams, you can kind of move around the drills and sort of protect the field. But when you get 3 or 4 teams in there, that space is just too small.
Yeah.
You really can't move around and save it.
We are trying to run a program for a town in 2016 on a field that was built 50 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And so many other facilities in town have been updated multiple times in the same time frame that, it's a football field, so nobody really paid any mind to it. But now at this point, we have got a 50-year-old facility with 50-year-old, functionality.
Yeah, sure.
And it is, I would like to speak on behalf of a couple of families, and at least the cheer program, who have family members with disabilities who, they can make it to that ticket booth up that quirky, little hill there to the ticket booth, but once they get there, they really can't get into that field. And there are parents and grandparents who have never made it to any of the games, because how do you get a wheelchair over that?
They're
grass?
in the home games.
To the home games, right. So they
Yeah.
can't get to the home games. They can't even get to, so let's just say somebody carries their wheelchair. And there's 2 kids at the high school right now in wheelchairs. So they can't even come into a game comfortably unless they are carried into the game, which you don't want to do that. Their mode of transportation and getting around is in their chair. They can't even get to the infield. And then, God forbid, they have to use a sanitary facility once they get there. They have to make the decision, do they sit there and wait it out? Or do they go across in the dark, across the, unpaved ground to get to the porta potty that's over in the dark? And so I think.
Which, by the way, doesn't accommodate a wheelchair.
One does.
One does.
One does, but not,
They're in
it's
the
not the
front.
greatest situation.
It's suboptimal.
So I would like to just say, remind everybody that we're dealing with, a town in 2016 with a 50-year-old facility, and a facility that was built 50 years ago for this town 50 years ago. And a lot has changed, and the people have changed, and it just doesn't serve the needs of the town the way it needs to.
Well, and the reason I love the idea of renovating alumni, and surface aside, I've let people know
I'm with you.
I'd love to have a Penn State-like grass field,
field,
right? But having a facility where you can host, soccer tournaments and lacrosse tournaments and field hockey tournaments. Imagine hosting the field hockey Central Mass, we go out to Grafton, right?
Yeah.
And play at their beautiful facility. To be able to play, there is no high school program that is better located than Littleton. We're right off the highway. We're right off 495. It takes 2 seconds to get to Russell Street from 495. It's such an easy field. So, if to renovate that, to make it I'm not going to say a world class, but you want to make it
Premium.
a premium facility where towns are calling saying, hey, we want to use that. We want to run this or run that. You got the youth programs that can, like I see flag football playing all their games at alumni and turning Saturday into a really cool event for flag, right? Blasting music out of the system, serving food in the snack bar. Let's face it, we're going to have 200 kids playing flag football in a few years. That's where it's going. We might have 2 or 3 tackle teams, hopefully get more. I can tell you this, other towns are falling, they're having some issues too with tackle football. We could have fielded a 7th grade team had I known that Concord Carlisle wasn't going to have a 7th grade team. We could have taken all of their players. So, we're picking up kids from other towns. But people want to play in Littleton because, A, of our location, we're in AYF. AYF is a better program than Pop Warner. And it's a better brand of football, so.
Melissa, do you have any questions?
Just a selfish question on my part, because my kids are about to play flag football for the first time. There's 97 kids. You said their ages range from 6 to 11, so I assume each team has an age range 6 to 11. Is that right?
Yeah, so with flag, it's a 3-year, I believe it's a 3-year span. So
Okay.
you can have kids,
They're
kindergarten.
7-year-olds not playing with a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right,
6 to
right.
8.
6 to 8.
Yeah. You've got like 3, brackets.
So you're not going to have a kid shaving, playing with your
Just imagine Mikey running around with an 11-year-old.
Mikey's
But, flag football is a great program, and the kids have a blast. No one gets hurt.
That's a co-rec program too,
Don't.
right?
Yes.
And that's right, it's a co-ed program, so girls can play, and,
So is tackle football.
Yeah.
well, tackle
It is,
football is,
yeah,
but,
right. But there are more girls that play.
there are more
Yeah.
girls that, definitely. But it should be a
That
fun
goes-
event. You play up at the high school, that's okay. That's okay, because there's field space. But you want flag to be fun, and you want to crank music during the games, you want to sell food, you want to turn it into an event where the parents want to show up and make it a social event for them, and make it a fun event for the kids.
Yeah.
And you can't do that at the high school. You can't. It doesn't accommodate it.
How many games at once do flag football have? Because, I'm going years back when Aaron and Lowell played, so they went crosswise on the, soccer went this way and they had the fields lined up that way.
Perpendicular to soccer field. Most of the players 3 games at a time,
Okay,
depending upon numbers.
yep.
Yeah,
It's
and-
lined, the high school's lined for 3 fields,
But not the way that the soccer fields are going. They're
perpendicular
to
across the
that.
lacrosse
Okay.
field.
right,
Yeah.
right. And the thing is, you don't have to line, you can just cone it off.
Right.
You can, you don't have to paint lines like they do up at the high school. Just set up the cones and let the kids, run around and then pick up the cones when,
It's very low-key.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Fun.
a great aerobic activity, and kids really do enjoy it.
yeah, yeah.
Carl, do you have any questions?
It's a good.
Carl, you have no cheerleading questions.
You don't want to ask Jackie about the new uniforms or,
I just have a couple comments, and part of it is around flag, and my kids have participated in flag. First of all, the NFL started flag football.
yes.
And the reason they started it was to get kids engaged and involved, lower impact, the parents that were concerned about injury, where kids could learn kind of the X's and O's of football in a low-impact program. And Littleton has really championed that and done a good job of developing a program that does just that, helps to introduce kids to football through flag. One of the things about the venue that we're at right now, and it frustrates me that we try to put flag on that field, the worst field that we have in town, arguably, because there are other opportunities to play in other places. If alumni were to be synthetic, then that might be a great opportunity, like you're talking, bumping the music and that kind of thing. As it sits right now, on Saturdays, where flag is played at the high school, typically, I'd say probably half of the games, there's all kinds of complaints and frustration from parents because we rent out our facility. We rent out the high school to different venues, whether it's a dance recital or
So there's no
independent
parking.
churches. So parking becomes a challenge, and it's not the best venue outside of the condition of the field.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that regardless of what happens at alumni, that some opportunities, there will be, you guys will look at other opportunities to change the venue.
Yeah.
And there's no sanitary facilities out there.
Just
Right.
Well, I think they have a porta potty like,
over by the baseball field.
no porta potty?
There might be none.
Yeah, I think flag should be played down at alumni, and, you want to get kids fired up about, playing, and kids that want to take their football onto the high school. These young kids look up to these varsity players. I remember when Alex McLaughlin and that whole team, they went to the Super Bowl, and they were like gods in our kids' eyes, I mean, they were, it was like, oh my God.
But they
I
came
think
down and
Alex
they coach.
McLaughlin- is that-
Those kids come down and they coach in the
youth
summer.
program, yeah.
Yeah,
Big-
and
big
they're
time.
reaching down,
And we've had some great outreach with high school kids. Austin Lynn's going to come down and help coach, Brady Hunt, Wes Klein, Morgan Gravelin this will be her second year as one of my assistant coaches.
And she's one of my cheerleaders at the high school.
Yeah, and she's a cheerleader, and she just loves it. She just loves being part of the football program. So it's a great opportunity for kids. And the other thing too, and I'm just going to do a shameless plug for this, high school kids can get community service hours, right? Instead of having parents volunteer to be the chain gang, those high school kids, they can knock out a ton of hours, community hours, by coming down and volunteering on game day for chain gang and, working the snack shack.
Talk about the field.
Yeah.
Football program
I was gonna say,
here.
our cheerleaders get
Jesus.
community service because at the end of the football games on Sundays, they will help to clean up the facility. So they'll go around because there's no garbage pickup there. So I take the team and we go through and we clean up the whole facility. We pick up all the garbage, we clean it up, we bag it, and we actually put it in the back of our cars and tote it off. And I don't know if people realize that there's no sanitary service at Alumni Field on the weekend. So it is parent volunteers who maintain the field. We open it up in the morning, we unlock the chains, we close it up at night, we secure the snack shack, we clean it up. Everything is done by parent volunteers, and the game plan is to continue to have our parent volunteers contribute to the maintenance and the running of the facility on the weekends while the youth program is there. And I know that high school parents as well, on Friday nights, it's parents of athletes who are manning the shacks and the lab facilities and ticket booths and everything else. And so I just want to make sure that everybody understands that as a youth program, we will continue to commit ourselves to maintaining facilities in any way that we can. And as the facility changes and has different requirements for maintenance, we will do what we can within, our unprofessional capabilities to, be parents and be out there and be contributing to the community.
Great.
Any other questions?
No, I think, appreciate you guys kind of presenting the usage, the
Yeah,
pros, the
sure.
cons.
Good job.
Without the technology.
Yeah, it was a really nice presentation. It had all these graphics and
Can you send that to me,
videos.
Jackie?
Although he did say
Boy.
to me, could you put a cute little football on the I know how to do it, I know
No,
how
I
to do
didn't,
cute
I didn't
football.
use the word cute. I said, can you put a football?
Thank you.
Jackie,
All
can you
right.
send me that?
I don't know, Zach. I will do this now, this later.
No, sir.
Will you send me that?
Actually, do you want
Yeah,
Erica?
I'll just put it
Absolutely.
in with the minutes
Or Kim,
anyway.
Yeah.
or Erica, do you guys have any questions? I mean, rather than wait for the public input, if you have any questions for these
I
guys.
just had one. You mentioned that the flag football doesn't harm the fields at all. Why can't you play at Alumni now?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know.
That's an honest answer, Mr. Farrell.
Although the crown on the field would
Yeah,
make it a little,
I would argue that the crown is one reason.
And I divide the field.
And I'd also,
Also, time, what do you do one team at a time that way?
well, you would probably go
across.
crossfield,
Sideways,
but
right.
that makes the crown situation even worse.
Oh,
Going
no,
uphill,
I don't,
downhill.
no. So the problem, when you go across, so I'll use this visual here, because I'm a visual guy. So here you have, so when we say we're going across the field, right? So you'd have a field here, here, and here. And the problem, in the current configuration, it's such a short sideline. Up at the high school,
It's all
this is
field.
the same
It's all
size
grass.
as, it's here, right? So it goes much longer. So with this field appropriately designed, then you would have the width to run flag, because you'd have enough space on either side.
50 by 25, isn't it,
Yeah.
the flag?
Yeah. So with Alumni Field, because it's so restricted, as soon as you get to the sideline, the out of bounds, you're talking dirt and rock. There's that little swale or whatever.
Drainage ditch.
Yeah, the drainage ditch that runs literally so the drainage ditch runs here and here, so you couldn't run it. You could run two games, but, and even that would be tough, because, again, it's just not configured well enough. Did that?
I had some questions in my mind about when Tom said that there's no impact on the field. I would argue that there is impact on the field, because we used to do flag up to 14, so 12 to 14-year-olds played as well. And those kids are cutting and running, and they're running routes and that kind of thing. And when the field's already in bad shape, especially, again, if it rained a little bit or it was even misty,
Yeah.
I think it does have an impact on the field as well. So I think there's a combination there. That's my opinion. 'Cause my kids played until they were 13.
They wear cleats.
They do wear cleats, correct. Well, they can wear cleats, they don't have to.
Should, they need to.
They do.
Any other questions?
Any other? Yeah.
I was just gonna say the crown too, the kids would be kind of running uphill.
Uphill,
Go
yeah.
downhill, right, if you're going that way.
You
And
get to
they're
the
so
top of the
little, they
hill,
wouldn't be able to
take a
see
left.
each other.
Well, and that's why, right now, Alumni is a terrible field to play soccer. It's just awful. And again, every sport can benefit from Alumni getting renovated, because that's your marquee facility. And so now you can run tournaments for every sport. You can run lacrosse, you can run soccer, you can,
I
you
can't
can
do
do the field, field hockey.
My infield stage.
Field hockey on grass could be the most painful sport to watch.
It is, it could be.
On grass. On grass, it is, the ball just the ball just dies. It's like they wind up, they take this big, and the ball just goes like 5 feet,
So there's actually one thing I want to caution you on is speaking of field hockey on grass, the middle school team does play field hockey in the outfield of Whitcomb.
Yeah.
So if flag or the youth tackle teams are using Whitcomb for whatever, keep in mind that the middle school does play they
Right,
practice and play
so,
in that
so that's what Sean pointed that out to me the other day, and what he said was, we could have basically from the fence along the right field line, first base line out, we could have from the fence to where the start of the field hockey team would be, in that outfield area.
And then behind the dugout on the third base line.
And then behind the backstop and the fence. And that's what he said. He goes, you can have that spot. And I said, well, okay, that takes care of one drill. We can run a few drills there. But,
Thanks again, Tom. Jackie, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Oops, there's my.
All right, so Sheila, thank you for putting together the minutes for the meeting of
There's 2 sets there.
July
Different
13th and July 21st. Did we do the 13th? Let me take a look at the 21st.
No, it's gotta be.
Is the cup, is it the N cup or the M cup, or, I don't know.
I believe it's the N cup.
N? Okay. The showboat.
I can have space on wet
Okay.
hair and no
Soccer
makeup.
talk. You look
The
fabulous.
one day that my.
The only other thing is, I didn't make the motion to adjourn.
Oh.
You should put it in
Or Mike Brew?
I'll change it. I'll s-
Last page.
Yeah. Looks good to me.
All right. I make a motion to approve the minutes from July 13th, 2016.
second?
Moving to second, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
I
Opposed? Unanimous?
make a motion to approve the minutes with amendments for July 21st, 2016.
Second.
Second. Moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you, Sheila. All right. Is there any public input? We good? All right. Timeline conversation. Do we need any conversation about the timeline? You kind of covered it relative to where we're at with the OPM designer. That there are going to be, so next week we are off.
Right.
Are we off for the next 2 weeks? Is that what
I think
it
we're off for
says?
we're off for the next 2 weeks, and the
Design.
selection committee, screening committee, will try to meet, not next week, but the week after. Some of that's predicated on what transpires with the PMBC,
Okay.
executing a contract
So
with
our
the
next meeting
the
then
OPM.
is, so Wednesday the 3rd and Wednesday the 10th, we are not, did we say the 16th?
Yeah.
Tuesday the 16th.
Yep.
So we're trying to work around Carl's PMBC.
PMBC, yep. So Tuesday, 8/16. And We want to try to schedule something for the 24th. That Wednesday, there's no PMBC meeting on the 24th, right, Carl?
Right.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
Cancel if we have to. I think at that point, we might very well have a designer in place.
I think that's,
Or picked, we'll have one picked.
LCTV, I think, had 8/24 still on the schedule. Yeah, okay, good. All right, so as far as agenda items, likely have the OP, well, we should have the OPM under contract at that point. I would anticipate that they would be present at the meeting, be able to field any questions, and will likely be involved. If we haven't made a decision on a designer, they'll be able to answer questions relative to that as well.
I think we should have some discussions about distilling some of we've got a lot of information, a lot of input over the past couple of months. I think as a group, we should be thinking about just having conversations
Discussion, yeah.
about it and where it fits into the process and things like that, so. Yeah, we don't have to be any more specific about it than that, but, as we get ready to come up with agendas, we can be more specific.
There's also a gentleman who's Jackie's friends with, Nick DeSilvia. He was, he had a lot to do with the Chelmsford Fields, and he's chimed in on the Facebook pages and with, some good comments, good advice. He reached out to me and said he'd be willing to come in and speak with us, take us on a tour of the facility if we'd like. So, not really, I think it would be worthwhile. Certainly open to discussion whether or not it's worth our time to bring him in. Something to think about, maybe.
Yeah, somebody's gone through the process.
Right, exactly, that's what I was thinking. He's big into the fundraising aspect of it, too.
I'd love Sheila to hitch your wagon, or not you per se, but to have boosters hitch their wagon, because they do so much with the boosters to partner with the school district and then to make that whole thing happen. And Nick is actually president of the boosters over there, Tim.
We've already reached out to him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and then Cindy has
Okay.
talked to him.
great ideas. He really is. This
Yeah.
Do we want to try to get them on?
I would get them earlier rather than later, because we're going to
16th?
pick up steam, yeah. When we get the design around, we're going to stop. We're going to have not as much time for this type of thing.
Got it, Mike?
Yeah.
Reach out to them?
Yep. What day was that?
Tuesday, 8/16, 7 PM. Okay. Anything else? You good?
Motion to adjourn?
Second. Move to second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.